Welcome everybody to this OneDoor Studios update, an extremely exciting update today. I know you guys have been waiting a very long time to hear from us, and we have had really good reason to wait. And I think you're going to be really excited to find out why. We finally have, after months of back and forth and negotiations and talking, we have a production partner, and it is, you may have heard of her before. Our name is Belle Avery. She is the main producer on the Meg and Meg 2, and she has a rich history in on IMDb that you can check out. But uh, we want to introduce you to her today. This has been months in the waiting, and so Belle, welcome to our Wonder Studios update and our team today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yay!
Okay, you hear all the yell in the background. We have everybody on the call today. Look at all these screens that just popped up.
About dang
We
time.
got John J, Paul Dan, and Belle Avery. So Belle Avery is she is signed with us as a producer on Calculator. So welcome to our team, Belle. We are unbelievably excited to have you here, and I know our investors are probably jumping up and down right now because this has been too long coming. I wanted to ask you a couple questions about Calculated. Actually, first, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know this is kind of off the cuff here. Just tell us a little bit about your background and film industry history, stuff like that.
All right. I've been in the film industry over 35 years. I started out as a writer. I sold my first screenplay at 22, and I was an actress as well for a period of time. And then I also really started behind the scenes in copywriting and editing for film trailers. And I did that for many years in New York, working with really incredible directors. We did a lot of really great film trailers, and it was a great learning curve because I got to meet with really and work with really great directors in the industry. So that was a really great experience, if you will, and getting to read the scripts and seeing what ends up laying on the cutting floor and what ends up staying in the film. And then in 2009, I started my own company, and I also have been a consultant for many years in the film industry as well, also being a script doctor and a script writer as well. So I started, I worked with in consulting Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Vencom Systems, Marubeni of Japan, many different companies, and many of those things regarding entertainment, which was in the film industry as well. So it was breaking down different films, the slates, understanding who the audience is, understanding story points and stuff, what attracts a global audience, what the box office numbers look like, projecting all of those things. So I did a lot of stuff with that as well. And then in 2009, I started my own company.
You are the producer on the Meg, as we mentioned, and Meg 2. And so this is a global franchise that am I correct that it grossed over $1 billion?
That's correct.
Yeah. So that story originally was in Disney's hands, right?
Yes, Disney bought it as a 200-page novel. It wasn't even finished yet. And they bought it and they had it for several years. And sadly, but good for us, that they did not develop it in a way that they could make it. So after about 6 years, almost 7 years, they ended up returning it to the writer. And then New Line picked it up. Toby at New Line optioned it, and then they worked really hard for several years trying to adapt it also for the screen, and were not successful after spending millions of dollars, to be quite frank, and attaching many different directors. And then I knew that it would come back to Steve because they actually reached out to me to help fund the New Line picture because I had also worked in putting a fund together, which we financed about 1.5 billion worth of films in Hollywood. So I unfortunately I read the script though, and I didn't think that the script was good, and I knew that Steve would end up with the project back. So I told him when he gets it back to please bring it to me, and I would option it, but I wanted to option the entire franchise.
That set of movies has been pretty successful, in my opinion. I did watch both of them. And if any of our investors haven't seen it yet, then go ahead and watch Meg and Meg 2 to kind of get an idea of the caliber we're talking about here. So great movies. So kind of moving on to Calculated, Belle, I kind of want to know, like, how did you come about to know about this project? And like, what did you see in Calculated once it was introduced to you?
Okay. Well, it was reminiscent of Meg, if you will, because Steve Alton, the author of Meg, had reached out to me and with Meg. And then Jason actually reached out to me through an email as well regarding Calculated. And he sent me the materials and I read the book and I was it's one of those things when you read something and you realize immediately that this is a franchise and immediately that this is a popcorn movie, and then on top of that this is a global franchise, and it's a story really that had never quite been told before. Joe is an extraordinary character, the lead character in it. And then it revolves around things which are really important today and which other people can relate to, because you're attracted to characters in movies because you see something in them that you want for yourself, or you see something in them that you recognize in yourself. And with many of them, and that character is an incredible character for a global audience.
So, Belle, when you were talking to us earlier, you kind of mentioned you saw kind of a family appeal in this film. Talk to us about that a little bit.
I do, absolutely. I think it's one of the things that's lacking in theaters today is for really big action-packed global films for families to be able to go and see it and enjoy it, that are not rated, that are rated and proper for families to watch together, if you will.
Too much this, too much that. I get it. I'm a parent of four kids.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find, we don't go to the theater much at all as a family. If, my wife and I go see some movies, my kids go see movies separate. We don't feel like seeing the cartoons and they don't feel like seeing the not cartoons. So I get what
You
you're
know
saying.
what's exciting about it for me as well, and Meg has the same thing too. Is that you attract the quadrant. You really do attract everyone from 7 or 8 years old all the way to 80. I do believe that with this project, and I think that there's something interesting, whether it's the parents' relationship and the father's relationship with the girls, or whether it's the girls' relationships with each other, and also to when you look at Red, you look at a lot of these characters in here. I mean, it really goes across the boards. With the love story, with the suspense, with the things that happen to her, how she takes control of things, and the way that she turns things around. All of those things are really important.
Belle, I completely understand what you're getting at in this. I have to digress for a second. You mentioned earlier that Jay reached out to you. Jason Brents reached out to you.
Yes, he did.
So Jay, I want to give you a chance here to kind of you kind of are our resident what do you call it? Connector, Jay. It's kind of your gift. You just make phone calls with the most unlikely people and then they answer and then like, hey, I like this. So Jay, I'm
Yes.
gonna turn over you 1 second. Talk to us about how you met Belle, Jay.
Happy to. Yeah. The fact that Belle responded has more to do with her character than my ability to reach out, because not everybody responds to me to my emails. But it really wasn't even like the success with the Meg. I don't know that I even realized that, like how successful it was. I was I started looking for who has just done a successful co-production with China. And so that's how I found the Meg. And then I was looking at her website, and I was very impressed with some of the language she had about, her values of bringing really good novels to screen. And so that was really just where that came from. So I just reached out and was really
And
happy
she
when she
answered.
reached back. Yeah.
She answered, which
He
is
wrote
not
a really
uncommon.
Yeah, he wrote a really good email.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Right.
Yeah, it's not uncommon that Jay reaches out to people and that you wouldn't expect to receive a response from, and they do respond. So, Belle, thank you for responding. I really
Yeah,
appreciate that. We all do.
yeah.
Which
Can I
kind of
just
brings
say,
me.
Stephen, that like with this, I mean, with Calculated, I mean, why wouldn't I respond? Because I'm sure it's why your investors invested in it as well, is that the story is incredible. The characters are incredibly intriguing, and it's going to be a huge global film. So I think that the story all of it, when I was reading it, I just couldn't, I really just couldn't put it down, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. So after how long that I met you guys and you started talking to me, and I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. So that's interesting though, because you had said to us on several occasions. I mean, this whole process of us, for lack of a better word, courting you, or getting to know you, and sorry, was that a terrible choice of words?
Well,
Um, us reaching out to you, you're reading it, and then it's constantly a lot of back and forth before we finally came to an agreement. And you said to us that you had a hard time getting away from this project. Uh, what did you mean by that?
well, it's not very often that you read something that is as, I would say, global friendly as this is, if you will. And one of the main reasons that it is, and why it can be such an incredible franchise, is because of your main character. We see so many movies with superheroes and special effects and all of this stuff, and it's a lot of eye candy, and some of it's good storytelling, but this is real. This is very real. And I mean, when I look at her gift that she has, I'm moved in real life. And I realize too, your audience and even all of you, I mean, when you see somebody in real life who has a special gift for something, it's profound. And it really strikes you. And it even strikes a chord, with you, with God, if you will, in the sense that you think,
Yeah.
because we're all given different gifts and we all have different purposes. And that was why Jo is a character I don't think that you forget. And you understand her struggles, you understand her family, you understand what it's like to have somebody that is gifted like that in a family. And I've never seen it done with a young girl before. And I think that it's incredibly relatable for a global audience to feel that. And I think for families also, when you look at parents, the struggle that they have with a child who is gifted in different ways. And I think that it all rings a chord, but it's so much more impactful emotionally because it's not a superhero movie, because it is real.
Yeah. So I know our investors are probably thinking, asking the question that they're yelling at the screen right now. Okay, so what does this mean? What does it mean that Belle Avery is on board with you guys? What's happening next? Is it just another person on the team, or are we actually moving forward? But first of all, I want to thank our investors for being so darn patient, because it's been, going through the strikes, multiple strikes, and all the myriad of difficulties we've faced in the last couple of years. We still moved forward ever so slowly, but still moving forward. And I kind of wanted Paul to kind of just let our investors know, what we've been doing for the last year. We haven't been sitting on our hands, and I want to let Paul, just give it to Paul for a second, just to kind of talk to our investors about that.
Well, sure. And the truth of the matter is, when we met Belle and loved Belle, we actually, and this is probably a year ago, we thought, she's the one, let's move forward. And then Belle became unavailable. And we were like, oh, dang, plan B. And during plan B, we went out to other producers, some of whom Belle has worked with. And we were kind of like, well, if we can't get Belle, maybe we'll get that person who's close to Belle, and maybe we'll end up getting Belle indirectly. So that was months of reaching out, multiple meetings, additional pitches, some close calls. We felt like there were some of these other producers that kind of got it, but we knew all along that Belle got it better than anybody. In fact, she just articulated it so well.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're cutting this together, but what she said specifically about Jo's gifting being human, because all these superhero movies, the superhero always has intergalactic extraterrestrial abilities that is fun to watch, but really we can't relate to it. None of us will ever be able to point to a truck and throw it across the street, at some other villain superhero or supervillain. But the fact is, Jo's gift is a representation of a human gift, and we all have human gifts. We all are superheroes in some way. And that's what makes her so relatable. The fact that she's struggling with that gift, like we all struggle with our gifts, it's like just way more relatable. And Belle got that. She got that from the very beginning. She gets it now. She articulated it well now. So when she became available again, she kind of came back into our orbit. It was like, okay, we're back to where we were. Why did it not happen a year ago? You know, every film has its own soul, its own timing. What is it, Belle? 7 and 9 years is the average amount of time it takes for a film to see the light of day. So this is really coming back to what we sensed was the right choice a long time ago, and the timing was just off.
Yeah.
So now the timing is here, and we're so excited to move forward, and we see things moving quite quickly now. God willing, who knows what other twists and turns will come, but we're moving now into basically a rewrite of the script that Belle is heading up. We trust her with that because she has so much writing experience in her past, and maybe kind of tossing back to Belle some of the beats that you see going forward. You could share with us, Belle.
Well, as I think I said earlier, Ann Peacock did a great script, and Nova is certainly a wonderful writer. Where now it's just about fine tuning the characters, and then just with the storyline, making the different storylines, interconnect in a more clear way, and also just being able to polish the characters so that they can be relatable on a global level, and then also increasing some of the action. It's all the things really that you do when you take a script and you're fine tuning it for a global audience and for the type of project that this can be, which is, it's very intense sequences that, one of the things we asked ourselves, because I work with a group of writers, is, okay, how can we even push it harder? How can we make it more interesting? How can we make it more intense? How can we show them also too in a way that actually affects them in an emotional level that just when a character normally would do something that it wouldn't be. So it's all the nuggets, because everything's really there, but it's really about taking it to that next level. Even the smallest things in a character of why you like them or why you don't like them, developing them in a way so that your audience is growing with each one of them and understanding them more. It's just a full process. It's like taking the whole piece and then just going through literally every piece of it and just making it the best it can be for a global experience.
That's awesome, Belle. Once again, for our investors, just to let them know, with Belle, she talked a lot about writing, but with Belle, we get a whole lot more than just writing. I mean, she's the producer of the Meg, so in other words, she has the connection, she has the history in the industry to really help take this project across the finish line. So not just writing, she has incredible skill with that, but she has a whole lot of other incredible skills that go along with it.
Can I just double click on that for a second? Yeah. So we see Belle as executive producer and producer. And that's important because not only are we counting on Belle's ability and her vast experience to actually physically make a movie, there's a lot of financial decisions to be made. And that business side of things, which Belle has also done, is super critical for the success. We've already had a lot of business dealings and kind of ebbs and flows and whatnot. And we're really down to our final chunk of funds. And we've seen this relationship now as the thing that will catapult us into that next realm of business decisions and financing and so forth. So that's a really important point that you made, Stephen. It's not just about Belle's ability to write or even produce a movie. It's some of those executive producer roles that we're counting on her for as well.
I will say this, guys, and that is that, taking Meg, for example, because Meg is a big franchise property too, and it's the same thing with Calculated, is that, with Meg, a lot of people tried in big studios, and so it was one of those things. When I went out, people wondered, like, if if Disney couldn't do it, New Line couldn't do it, how can you do it?
Right.
And what it is, the most important thing is having a very clear vision for what the story can be on a global level. And then you stick with that and you fight for that and you make it happen. And that, to me, is what Calculated needs. It's just that person who's going, okay, this is what we're doing, and focusing in on all of that. Then once we have that to that point, then it's taking it to all those other steps, Paul, exactly what you're saying. Because, in Meg, I had to, negotiate the contracts with CMC, raise the money out of China, which was the first one was, 75, $80 million. And then coming back and partnering with Warner Brothers on that, and getting Warner Brothers to put in 25%. So it was a complicated process, and it is. It will be on this as well, because all films they have their own journey, but they all come with their own set of problems. So I have done that A to Z. And the thing is to be passionate enough about something that you're willing to do all that. And I am with Calculated, and I am with you guys. If the whole thing is working with a team of people who you respect and you enjoy working with. And to me, the investors are the most important part of all of this, because we are responsible to the investors to give them the best story possible to take from page and put up there on that screen. And that I take very seriously. And that's why with Meg, I never believed for a second it wouldn't be made. It takes 7 to 9 years to get them on that screen typically. But same as with Calculated, I have no doubt whatsoever that this film will be a big global film. No doubt whatsoever.
Amen to that. We agree.
We agree.
So I haven't given John or Dan a chance to even chime in yet. John, I know you're probably itching to ask a question. I know you.
Oh, no. I mean, yes, you do know it. No, not itching to. But just want to clarify, you're not saying that it's going to take another 7 to 9 years necessarily.
No,
And yet,
no.
it's really kind of a miracle-laden path
Yep.
to take something from where we've taken it and to move it through all the gyrations. And the investors, thank you again for mentioning them. Many of them been with us for years.
Yep.
And they saw what a hair puller it was to get a screenwriter of the dimension of Ann Peacock to become associated with it. And I don't know that you've met her, but you likely will before things are over. But in meeting with her, it was similar in her relationship to the material. She just really couldn't put it aside. It was something she had to do. And it was, it became a real passionate and deeply committed position for her to do it, which is awesome. That's how we feel about you. I can't, I was thinking back what you were talking about, the first conversation that I was involved with, and it was a phone conversation with you. And I think most of the team as well. But I was, I hadn't worked with you before, and I thought, who is this woman? She's really been around this long and done all these things. But it's so gratifying when you meet someone who's traveled over some of the same territory that you have, and knows some of the same people and experienced some of the same things. And it was really, I felt so at home and at peace with you right away, simply because we had some of the same touchstones. And we are, just like has been mentioned, Steve said real well, and Paul as well, really pleased that you're here and that you feel the calling. You come back to us and say, I really am looking forward to get back on this and sit down and talk with you all. Not that you haven't been on some really strong projects in the interim, taking you across the planet. but we're glad to have you back, and we're glad to have your whole focus and attention. It's a real satisfying feeling. Couldn't be more comfortable.
Thanks, John.
How about you, Dan?
So some stories I love the fact that you've had every experience. It seems we've been a Calvin Klein model. I mean, there's so many different things that I'm just intrigued by. But I'm sure that all of our audience who's listening would love to learn from you something interesting. Because a lot of these people, it's not like the people you usually are getting investment from. These people have never done a film. And so anything that's interesting about the next steps in the process that you could teach, you could give, just a note. What is the next level about, and what can we start beginning to look for?
I would say it's doing a pass on the characters, each one of them, making sure that that we understand where they're coming from exactly, what makes them do the things that they do in our screenplay. And then I look at Jo and look at her family, and I think to myself, okay, how can I make this a stronger bond emotionally with families or individual characters across the globe? Those things are really important, because the thing I ask myself is a story worth telling? And if the story's worth telling, which obviously Calculated is that then who is my audience? And then I really want to deliver when it comes to your audience, and not on every age level, if you will, where we can. And we have such a diversity of characters that it's my job working with writers to make sure that we deliver in the development characters that you maybe have never seen before on the screen, and ones that really pull you into the story and create a deeper bond with you as well.
One of the things we love, Belle, is that you came in and you didn't say, here's my contract. You said, how can I help? I'm here to help. There's no pressure. We never felt that. Maybe that's why it took so long, guys. I don't know. Maybe that she just made it too easy for us. But you really, really came to be a contributor, to bring value, not to extract. And I believe that's why the team felt so comfortable. That's why we got so excited about this agreement to move forward. And one of the phrases that I get excited about is you say it's a global friendly film. Your global experience, raising money internationally, building international connections, understanding the international storylines that are acceptable, those that are not acceptable. Those are important pieces. How important is that today?
Well, yeah, no, it's really important. Even when you look at the Marvel stories, that's why when the ones who have the superpowers and stuff, the origin stories are really important on these characters, because if you don't understand where they come from or why they have these gifts and these things, then you can be lost very quickly, or you can not care about them. And it's one of the biggest problems with films today, is that you simply don't care about the characters, and you ask yourself, why am I even watching this? And that it's really, really important. Yeah. So that's why when we look at Jo, we have to understand her. We have to love that character. We have to get upset with her and angry with her when she makes bad choices, or she's selfish, or she's cynical. But we have to care about her. And that's one thing that's so important when you're creating a franchise like this, is that it's like when we were creating Jonas's character in Meg. You had to understand where he came from. You had to understand the mistakes that he had made in his past, so he could move forward. And, so that he could create the trust with people, and that he, and it's the same thing with Jo, very much so, is that we really do have to understand who she is. We have to understand why her parents do what they do, why her sister does what she does, why Maxima even does what she does. So these are all extraordinary characters, and they are literally global characters across the world. So, but we have to feel emotionally bonded with them.
We just appreciate how that you share values. I think that's what a lot of people invested in here, is that they felt trust in the values of this, and that we would respect the values of the book, the values that are being kind of presented to our children, our families, international values. Even in, you think about it, some of these other countries, some of our films don't make the cut. And in some of that you've navigated, and knowing how to navigate the various values so that we have this 70 to 80-year-old global film, everybody fits, everybody feels like it's talking to them, right?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And the most important thing is how you see the story, to be quite frank. That's why that's why I came on board, is because I really do feel like I understand, and that's why I've shared with you guys my thoughts and stuff, is how to make this it's clear for me. It's clear for me because I understand what this story should be and how we should tell it, because the book is so rich and there's so many characters and there's so much going on that we have to be able to find the pearls and find the diamonds in there, if you will, and then being able to make sure that they're clear for a global audience, because we just need to make sure that the storyline and everything is understandable and the best it can be for this audience. So.
Good. Well, Belle, you are a force to be reckoned with. You're I mean, we've had other meetings where you really expressed how how you handle yourself and in as a producer, and we have a tremendous amount of respect for you and how strong you are, unwavering. Like you said, it's very clear, you're very focused, and that's one of the many reasons why we're so confident in you, is because of that focus that you do have. Now, I know we've gone really long on this update today, but I'm pretty sure our investors are fine with that because they haven't heard from us in so long. So, and we apologize for that. As we said, we didn't want to keep giving you updates, or we said, well, we can't really tell you what we're doing right now. Can't really tell you names because that's just irritating. So we wanted to save you from that. So here we are, new production partner, Belle Avery. So excited. Thanks so much for joining us today, Belle, and we're really looking forward to many more meetings like this with you.
I have one final ask that needs to go on the record. So I'm a surfer, and our biggest fear is sharks. And I just want to make sure, Belle, because I know you've got an in with sharks. Can you make sure? Can you make sure we are all safe? John's a surfer too, so put in a good word for us. Okay, it's part of our agreement.
I'm sure you did some research when doing the Meg. Are there any, live Megs right now, Megalodons?
Well, less than 1% of the deep oceans have been explored, and less than 10% of the oceans. So there could be a Meg out there. If you've ever flown to Asia, you're, in different parts of the world, or New Zealand, you're over a lot of water.
Keep them out of Malibu, please.
With that scary thought for surfers, we're going to sign off. Don't get eaten by a Meg. You won't even know it when it happens.
That's right.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next update.
You guys are terrific. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Keep going.